Hey friends, welcome back to Big Nate's Whiskey Lounge. I am Big Nate, coming at you with a newer video, one I hadn't done yet. This is going to be American Single Malts. We're going to define it a little bit, and then we're going to talk about these individual whiskeys, and then we'll get right into it. So full disclosure, of all four of these, this is my most recent purchase, but I have not tried the Stranahans yet. But the four that we're going to have before us is going to be High West High Country, which came out earlier. 21, this says, batch in 2021, but it's newer to the market. We've got Balcones Lineage, which came out, this one is from 2020. We have Westland, this is one of their single malts. They have a couple of different ones, but this is the American Oak one. And then we have Stranahan's single malt. This one is a Solera finished. I'll get into that just a little bit, what that means. So we're going to give these a pour and talk about what single malt means. So in Scotland, single malt is that's kind of what we associate with when we think single malt. And in Scotland, it means single and malt are used together, but they mean two different things. Single means it comes from one distillery, and malt means it's made with 100% malted barley. Now in America, we don't have rules yet for malt. They're in the works. A lot of distilleries will stick to very similar rules as Scotland, but they don't really have to. It's kind of like bourbon or rye. You could really make a 51% malted bourbon, a malt bourbon, and call it malt. But a lot of these three specifically stay on them that they are made with 100% malted barley. This kind of alludes to it, but doesn't directly say it. So I don't want to I don't want to give it that credit if it's not necessarily due. But basically the malt means malted barley. And so these are either 100% or at least a majority barley in the mash bill. So this is going to be High West, Balcones, Westland, and Stranahan. So I've tried these three. It's been a little bit, this one was newer. I only picked this up like 2 weeks ago. So let's get right into the High West. Now this is produced by High West. Unfortunately, they do not disclose, like other their offerings, the state of distillation. So it does say that a blend of 100% copper distilled malt whiskeys, aged a minimum of 2 years. They could call it straight, but because it's a single malt, those rules don't really apply to single malt yet. They're more for bourbon or rye. On the taste, I'm getting a little bit more like an unpeated Scotch, which is nice. That's kind of what I'm going for. Does this say whether or not it's new oak? It doesn't. That might not be why they call it straight, because those rules probably apply. Yeah, and they mentioned stuff on this about how they're trying to, bring the spirit of Scottish single malt to America. I can respect that, and I like it. If you like single malt, another whiskey tuber that does actually quite a bit of single malt content is going to be Tipsy Whiskey Shenanigans. I know that he's done quite a bit of these bottles, and he's done plenty more. Go check him and them out. Steven does most of the individual videos, but then him and Alec will do live streams and things like that. Barley Funk. My guess, if I had to pinpoint it, I would say they did not use New Barrel, because these are all pretty same colored. The Balcones is a little bit darker, and I'll get to that in a second. But the other three are pretty much right in line with each other as far as color goes. So it's good. It's good the second time I'm having it. The first time I was a little bit about it, and I know Dara over at the average drinker, she wasn't a huge fan of that. She didn't dislike. She just wasn't a huge fan. I actually do kind of like it. A buddy of mine, my buddy Connor, I mention a lot, he texted me one day. He's like, "Hey, the liquor store next door has this for $150." I went, "No, I can get it for $80." So I got it for $80. I don't know what you paid. Tell me what you paid. Comment below. Tell me what you paid. I'm able to find. I think it was $83. But then there's other stores in our area that have it for well over $100. And when he texted me that, I said, no, stop, pump the brakes. I saw it the other day for 80, I'll grab it. So that's going to be the High West, High Country. He's back home for the summer, but I'll be sure to hook up with him a couple of times to share some whiskey and things. Now the Balcones, so this is Texas whiskey. So whereas this was aged 2 years, does this say how long it was aged? This is Solaricus, so there's a little difference. I'll get to that in a second. So this is 2 years. This says minimum too. This was only aged for 36 months in oak. Again, my guess is going to be used. This pot distilled. This was also pot distilled. That doesn't say. I'll get to that one in a second. But this is Texas. So Texas matures a lot faster because it's a ton of high heat. Whereas if you're in Kentucky or somewhere else further north, the seasons make the barrel constrict and open up, kind of like pores on our skin do. Whereas in Texas, it's just like you're sweating all the time because your pores are just wide open because it's always 125 degrees, and so it just ages differently. So it's a little bit different color. Smells a little bit young. It does smell young. I'm getting kind of the other Balcones offerings that I have this kind of the rye and maybe the baby blue and things like that. There's this young funk to it that comes from Texas, and I'm getting it on this. Not as intensely, and I'm not shied away from it, but it is just a little. So let's give this a taste. There's a sweetness to it. I prefer this over High West. There's just more interesting. The High West is a little bit one-noted. A little bit boring, a little bit thin. We haven't talked proof points yet. This is 44% ABV. So it's 88 proof. This is 47% ABV, so it's 94 proof. Not a ton of difference there. But this, I gotta say, I genuinely like this a lot. This is the Balcones Lineage, their single malt. I genuinely actually really like this. There's just something different about it. All right. I didn't think I'd say that. I threw this into the mix right before I shot this video. I was like, I need to review High Country. But why don't I do a comparison video to some other American single malts that are in my collection? So these are the only other three. And I was like, Balcones, do I want to do it? It's Texas. I've kind of dogged them. No, I'm glad I did. I like that a lot. Now this is going to be Westland. So they do they're single malt, but they do a couple of different offerings. This one is specifically American oak, aged for a minimum of 2 years, 100% malted barley. Now, this is High West out of Utah, who sources a lot of their stuff from MGP in Indiana. However, it doesn't say that this is or not, so we don't know. Balcones does their own distilling in Waco, Texas. This is a company in Seattle, Washington. So let's see what we got here with the... The nose between the two goes to High West. As far as proof is, this is 92 proof, 46%. Wow, that's actually really boring. Really boring. Get the maltiness. I think one of the things why Texas is really good at, the reason why I think Scotland or Ireland are going to do a little bit better when it comes to single malt, and I think maybe as long as America doesn't get too crazy with their laws, they'll be able to replicate some of these things. Especially because right now, just of the three right now, the Balcones Lineage, I'm really, really liking. But with Scotland, they use used barrels. So we've got, this is a Pedro Jimenez cask. We've got so many different casks being used between all of these different single malts that they instill different flavors. They're aged different amount of times. So there's allowed to be different, I don't know. With the oak that's involved, it just says aged in minimum 2 years, American oak. It's just very boring, very simple, very boring. Not much to it at all. The High West I like better. So right now it's Balcones, High West, Westland. Let's go to Stranahan's. Like I said, I've tried these other three before. I don't know if I liked this one the first time I had it, but I do now. And I actually like it a lot. So this is Stranahan's out of Colorado. Made limited runs. This is 86 proof, 43%. This is going to be the lowest of the three. It comes out of Denver. Now it says it's Solera casks. It says handcrafted at high altitude, 5.280 feet. Or is that supposed to be a period or a comma? I don't know. This does say 100% malted barley, cut to proof with pristine Rocky Mountain water. Yeah, so's Coors, and that stuff is garbage. I'm not seeing an age stated on it. It says distilled and bottled by Stranahan, so they do make it themselves. It's interesting. They have the address on the back here on this flat side here. Gives their address. So it says Solera finished. Solera finished. So they age it and then they finish it in Solera cask. So real quick, Solera cask is basically those very massive, massive barrels. They are bigger than the typical barrels. I'm fudging the numbers. I can't remember the numbers of barrel size and things like that. So please comment in the notes. But basically what they do is they age it, then they put it into this, they blend it in a very massive cask. And then what they do is they take a little bit out and bottle it, replace it, take a little bit out, replace it, take a little bit out, replace it. Basically the best way to describe this would be Glenfiddich 15, which is a very good, Speyside Scotch. Right? That's Speyside, right? Yeah. What happens is they distill they put their whiskey into that barrel, wait till it gets to 15 years, takes some out, puts in new stuff, waits till the youngest stuff gets to 15. They continue that cycle. So you are always getting at minimum 15-year-old whiskey, but you might have some very old whiskey in that Solera cask. So it's actually kind of a real cool concept. Okay. This is the second most interesting nose. Balcones is probably going to take it on nose. Right now it's winning palate as well. And I apologize for the cat. It's Memorial Day weekend. Today is Memorial Day that I'm shooting this. So happy Memorial Day to all of you. Thank you to those who have served. And we want to remember those that did not come back, that give us the freedoms that we have today. And I'm drinking American Single Malt in your honor. So thank you, and rest in peace. So Balcones is, but he's crying because I've been gone all weekend. Second most interesting nose. It gives me kind of a reminder of the Balcones. There's a funk on it. All right, boom. I'm calling it. I know that was just one sip, but I'll take another just for prosperity. Yeah. Oh, hang on. So right now, third, fourth. That's how it's going to go. High West gets third. Westland gets fourth. I thought it was going to be a shoo-in for Balcones going into the final. Might not be. Nope, it is. Okay. That was closer than I thought it was going to be, though. All right, so American Single Malt, the four in my collection. Balcones, Stranahan's, High West, and Westland. This has been Big Nate's Whiskey Lounge. Thanks so much for watching. Please comment below. Tell me what American single malts you've had, what you like, what you don't like, and why. And then if you give offer up any other recommendations. I'm more than willing to try this. As you know, I'm a big Scotch guy, which means I really like single malt. And so I'm really excited that concept has come over to America. But it's a little bit behind. It's not getting as much steam. But we got some pretty decent offerings in front of us. And let's continue that. So give me some comments, and please be subscribed and click the bell for notification. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.